Hello, and welcome to the Wine Enthusiast Podcast, your serving of drinks culture and the people who drive it. I'm Ana Cristina Cabrales, tasting director here at Wine Enthusiast, and today we're talking about what it means to be sober in the wine industry and in general. While the two worlds seem contradictory to each other, we're answering the question, can the choice of sobriety exist, work, and possibly be enjoyable within the world of wine? So let's be clear, today we're saying yes, sobriety can exist in the wine world, and it'll look different for everyone. I'm joined by my friend Abe Zarate, aka @sober_som on Instagram. You're going to definitely want to follow him after this podcast because he's just one of the best human beings and so much fun. And he's so positive. He's one of the most positive people I know in wine. Abe, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Hi.
Feeling nervous? Are you good?
I'm good. I just have so many thoughts about this that I like to start by saying I'm not trying to tell anyone what to do, but I do get really excited about sharing a very specific experience.
And I love your story, and it's totally eye-opening. And I hope this might inspire a number of people who are listening in. But before we get into it, I'd love everyone to get to know who you are and where you currently work. So why don't you share that with everyone?
Yep. So I grew up between Guadalajara, Mexico and Laredo, Texas. Went to school in Boston for music and moved to New York to work in music publishing.
Wow.
So while I was doing that job to make ends meet, like most grads, I was working at Cortbuzz, a wine bar.
Love.
Only on the weekends. I remember being a little embarrassed once when I was asked a question that I didn't know the answer to. And I was starting to understand what being sommelier meant, what a master sommelier meant as well. I took a Wine 101 class, and I really fell in love with the idea that 2 ounces of wine could retain qualities of where it came from, where it grew up, how it was raised, and how it could change in the glass as you spend more time with it, just like any other human would be. And right place, right time. The beverage director there at the time took me under his wing, and eventually I decided to commit and transition into wine. I found a lot of parallels, specifically with publishing, and even now that I'm at the Modern working the floor, we do a lot of wine pairings. So whereas with publishing, I was matching a song in our catalog to an artist or a show or whatever the A&R person was looking for. At work now, I match a palette to a region, a flavor profile, a style, etc. So it's a lot of the same thing, all the while sharing stories, which is at the root of everything.
And I love that. And yeah, here we come together today to talk about sobriety, which is the choice that you've decided to take. This is your journey now while being in the world of wine. But before we answer anything else, why are we talking about this? Why now?
I think it's important to talk about the things that might not be as out in the open, but very much prevalent. Since I started sharing a couple of years ago, I have had lots and lots of people reach out saying they are not quote unquote out, but they appreciate whatever message or post or whatever it is that resonated with them. And that in turn just propels me to continue sharing because, again, just because something or someone is not outwardly visible does not mean they don't exist.
Do you find that a lot of people reach out to you on Instagram and ask you questions about sobriety?
Yeah. I've actually met with quite a few in person too. And again, it's never with the intent of saying, this is what you should be doing. It's simply, this is what I have done, why I decided to stop ingesting alcohol. And that's it. That's all I can do, right? Because everything we all do as humans is only through our lens, through our perceived reality. And if that ends up helping anyone make their own decision in any way, then that's all that matters.
So it's a personal choice, right?
Always, always, always. Yeah. I think it's like any other relationship, right? You have to have boundaries. I could talk about my sisters who are the people closest to me. And even we have very strong boundaries. And that's what allows us to be so close. It sounds counterproductive, but if anything, it's really what drives the relationship and grows it.
I like that. So by being sober, are you saying no to wine?
I'm saying no to ingesting alcohol. I have continued to say yes to wine because to me, wine is more than just alcohol. It is a celebration of the people, their stories, history, geography, community, experiences. I mean, when I, again, at work, when I sell wine, I don't sell tasting notes or regions necessarily. I paint a mental picture for these people to relate to. I grab onto something that I feel might resonate again, and that's what I lead with. You know, I sell anything from rosé as just summer in a bottle, something as simple as that, to an Alsatian white that we pour, relating it back to a trip I took last year and how it reminded me of Beauty and the Beast in real life. It always gets a reaction, whether it's a giggle, a smile, whatever it is. And then it gets people thinking. It feels more interactive. I think that when wine is approached in a conscious way, it can be the best medium for connection, which is what ultimately we are all looking for, I think.
Absolutely.
I don't ingest, but I am a very active participant in every environment that wine is present, because it's been with us for thousands of years and it's not going away. So it's finding the way to participate that works for you.
Oh, let's make sure it doesn't go away. But if I'm hearing you correctly, what you're trying to also say is that perhaps sobriety looks different for people. So why don't we go into perhaps defining sobriety?
I'll give you my definition because, again, it's my way of reframing it. And it's number one, sobriety does not equal abstinence always. Sobriety is more so a state of mind that leads you to a sustainable lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
So it's something that is also more prevalent than we think. It's, as I mentioned, people are interacting with not just alcohol, any substance in different ways. And whatever works, works. You know, the way I see it for myself is as a bit of an allergy. You know, some people have just a simple gluten intolerance, and some people have celiac disease. It's at different levels, and there is a spectrum. Not everyone is able to interact with something in the same way because they are affected differently. That's all that it is. And I taste wine almost every day, and I embrace that. I'm able to because, again, I see it as all the things that it embodies in the form of a beverage.
So, okay. For some people, this may not necessarily make sense because of the word sober, but based on how you've defined it, do you taste wine?
All the time. The logistics behind it really don't change. If we're thinking about a wine professional that does ingest alcohol, you know, you have a portfolio tasting that you might attend, right? And you have dozens of tables with 5 to 6 wines on each table. And if you're tasting through, you have to be spitting. You know, it's the way it's just done, right? So if I don't...
Sober or not.
Exactly, yeah.
And everything else.
Exactly. You're there for the specific purpose of tasting through to make informed decisions about whether it works for your beverage program, whether it works for the type of guests that you're catering to, etc. And it really doesn't change at all in the way that I interact with it with my peers. If I weren't public about it, no one would really notice.
So it sounds like you probably also get ton of crap for putting wine in your vows, even though you've defined yourself as a sober sommelier.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
I sometimes, because I am out, you could say, I will get the comment to the effect of, that's not true sobriety, because everyone has a very specific definition of what that should mean. And again, I already explained what sobriety means to me. I don't see it as an attack as much as an opportunity to educate people, and just to, more than educate, just expose to other ways of living, other ways of existing in this very specific world.
So what's like one of the biggest, if you want to call it, myth about sobriety that you'd like to debunk? Like, what would that be?
Well, on the surface level, that we're not fun. And they are very fun. It's the fact that you might not. Another thing I've gotten is a regular of mine a couple of years ago said to a coworker that he wasn't sure he trusted my suggestions because I don't drink the wine.
Oh, that's wild.
And again, I don't take it as an attack, because, he probably wasn't sure how I interact with wine on the daily, and the fact that I do taste it and all these things. So it just propels me to share how it is possible and how you're able to do whatever works for you. I'm repeating myself, but
No. Myth number 2 is sobriety forever.
Sobriety, I personally had a fear of permanence when I decided to quit drinking. So I thought, if I ever am in a very special event situation and there's this very special wine, I probably will swallow that sip, because those unicorn wines, that I don't know.
Oh, those unicorn wines.
That's right. But now I am just so content with the boundaries that I have with this substance that I don't know. Will I ever drink again? I don't know. That's the answer. So sobriety can be forever. If we go by the definition of it being a just sustainable way of life, then yes, I think that's the goal. Whatever is the most sustainable to you.
Let's talk about your aspirations to become a sober master sommelier through the Court of Master Sommelier Association. Why don't you tell us about a little bit about your past and what led you up to your aha moment that led you to making this choice?
There was this term being thrown around my way when I was coming up in the industry, which is that of a professional alcoholic, that people seemed to wear, myself included, as almost like a badge of honor. Because in my case, I was still getting the certification, the promotion, still achieving things in my mind with the help of this liquid courage. So I think, when I started noticing that every aspect of my life was on a downward spiral, even that wasn't enough. There's a fallacy of the rock bottom, and that doesn't really exist, because your reality gets readjusted to a lower level. So the rock bottom also gets lower. It's really the moment that sticks out is when my sisters, because we used to live together, said to me they couldn't spend time around me anymore. That really, really hit me. That's one of my biggest fears, to grow older and just grow apart. There's this show, Haunting of Hill House. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's on family dynamics, and it's, back and forth, past and present, this perfect family when they're all kids. And then you jump to the future 20 years later, they're all living different lives and separated. That's actually around the same time I was watching that show, so it's probably why it hit me so hard. I decided I needed to do something about it. Like a lot of people sharing my experience, you test your willpower and you say, okay, I'm going to stop for 1 week. I'm going to stop for 2 weeks. You do it. but willpower is finite. And it really doesn't mean anything. The fact that you're able to do, whatever that mini goal you set out for yourself. I knew I pretty much had two choices. And one of them was keep going. And wherever I end up, as dark as it may be, that'll be my end. Or try one more time, but really, really commit. And I didn't want to be scared of a substance forever. I think, and this goes for, again, anything that you might have abused in the past. It can control you as you're abusing it, and it can also control you after if you let it. I talk about myself as an ex-alcoholic. Use the term, I'm an alcoholic forever. No, I don't do it anymore. That's it. Done. We move forward. And it really helped me immerse myself in an environment that I was already a part of and that I wanted to continue being a part of, because I really, really love the wine industry and its people and its stories and everything else outside of my being allergic to it, So that was the beginning of that big change, I think.
I love that you're really reflecting the magic around wine.
Yeah.
It's truly that thing that brings people together. And you just demonstrated that it's okay that you can consume none of it, some of it, a lot of it, but ultimately this thing brings us together.
Yes. That's what I wanted. I wanted connection and community. That's what we all want. And I just misused it. As I was transitioning into sobriety at my 100th day, I decided to start an Instagram page, the Sober Someone, as a way to hold myself accountable and out myself with my peers and anyone who might see it, because I wanted to turn it into a sort of superpower.
Oh, I'm sure it was scary at first.
It's so scary. Oh, I just got chills thinking of when I was done typing whatever I was sharing, and before hitting post, I took forever. No, I knew I wasn't gonna delete it. It was just one of my sisters was in the room with me, and I was like, I don't know. And then I just did it, and it worked. At that time, I know I'm not alone in saying that I cared about what every single person could say. Now I only care about what specific people have to say about me. Before, it was everyone. So again, I wanted to use that to my advantage. If I care so much, I want to at least remain sober so that I don't ruin my chances of continuing in my career. And again, eventually I worked on it, behind the scenes and just managed to turn it into just that kind of strength.
Your page resonates so much joy, and there's a lot of wine posted in your page. You totally embraced it amongst all the other things that you do in life, which is great. You're really showing your love for this industry and the product in itself. But how do you tune out the negative noise?
I worked a lot on my identity and being radically honest with what I want, who I am. Really, really, it sounds cliche, but really learning to love every part of myself. And I really do. I used to hate my, little extra cheeks that I had. Now I love them. I just go, those are so cute. It's little things like that. And I speak to myself in that way. Maybe it sounds weird or not, but that's what I do. And it's really that helps me own my narrative, because I know myself. I like myself. I love myself. So it's harder for anyone else to decide who I am or what to say about me. And the more I share, the less people can assume, I guess.
Yeah.
And
we feel a lot of that on social media. Okay, so in holding yourself accountable on social media and keeping this positive narrative about yourself and building content that inspires other people, has it propelled you to be more active in person in the space of wine, especially in the New York market?
Yes. So I came up at Cork Buzz, as I mentioned, which is a wine bar that was opened with education at the forefront. So it's all about what my focus and intentionality is behind everything. So that's what I love. I love because educating it's just sharing.
Yeah.
And it's not that I know more than anyone else about wine or sobriety or whatever the subject might be. It's just I am willing and to share and I enjoy it and learn as you go. So that's the core of it all, really. I like to go back to that first moment where I took that wine 101 class and I fell in love with wine and try to always lead with that for whatever I do.
And so how long has it been now that you've been a super sommelier?
3 years and 8 months.
And how do you feel now?
I feel great is a one word, but I feel confident in my own definitions about sobriety and what being a sommelier is even. I'm comfortable in knowing I can sit through any uncomfortable emotion and I know there's the other side. I'm very proud of myself for proving myself right instead of focusing on proving others wrong. And I am so happy, really, that I found a way to connect deeply with people without abusing anything that was, not the best for me.
You're amazing. And I know that for me, as much as I totally respect your choice to be sober, I know that for me personally, it could never work. It sounds like you've been down like a really, really tough journey, but look at you now. You're amazing. But I know that personally, I don't think I can do it. I just wouldn't be my definition of happy. Now, as the tasting director, I love to do exactly that. Taste. I love to pair wine with food. Yes, occasionally there might be that feeling of tipsy, but I know when to stop, when to, let go and, find that medium that makes me happy. I find my own balance in the space of wine and, I don't drink it every day, don't need it every day. But you know what? I wonder sometimes, especially now that we keep hearing this trend of decrease in wine consumption, especially with the younger generation. If there's almost this fear of losing control since, we just got out of an extreme time of our lives, the pandemic. Why do you think this is potentially happening, especially now?
You said a keyword there that I like, which is wonder. And that is where I think we would all benefit from existing in this place of wonder and discovery and open-mindedness. We live in a very black or white world where the extreme option almost becomes an easier choice. It's easy to live in an extreme because it doesn't challenge who you are, your behavior, your values. So on the topic that Gen Z, for example, is drinking less and less, we have focused on why it is that they're not drinking. But what they've done is they've replaced whatever the experience of connection wine was a part of with something else. Where are they searching for connection? TikTok or I actually don't know what else they're doing.
Drinking RTD, cannabis. Who knows?
They turned 21 in the middle of the pandemic. A lot of them did. I look back at my time in college and I know you might relate. It's, we turned 21. We have our new apartments. We're hosting this fancy dinner where we think is fancy and having wine, inviting our friends. But again, what is it that we were looking for? Connection.
Right.
Now it's just a different way of finding it. So it's finding ways to make wine a part of it again for these younger generations.
And how are you yourself, so personally, getting that generation connected back into wine?
I think it's easy to advance in anything and forget that at one point we didn't know that Sancerre was made with a Sauvignon Blanc grape, right? That's maybe a silly example, but for whatever reason, I'm around people who don't really work with beverage at all. So I'm constantly reminded about it. And if I'm excited, they get excited. We also forget that everyone loves to hear about a passionate person talk about what they love and what just fills them it fulfills them. And if that's wine, if you love it for reasons beyond the technicalities of it, you will resonate, and that will be welcoming enough for anyone who might not know about it.
I agree. I feel that if you just don't share your joy about something, should it be wine or anything else, why would someone else want to partake in anything else that you're saying, right?
Exactly.
So, yeah, you have to share your joy. And I feel as though we've kind of lost that along the way. And I'm glad that, you share that joy constantly with others.
And I mentioned it, I lead with experiences, right? What are people going to relate more to? My comment on All Cells Surrounding Me of Beauty and the Beast, or, this winemaker finding a rare plot that was, suitable for whatever grape, and they decided to age it on the lease for 9 months. That, it's finding that connect.
So for those out there listening to this and might be, curious as to how to grow as a sober sommelier in the business, it's got some tips for you. So let's dive into tip number 1.
Yes. Tip number 1, I'd say, is find your people and build your community. I'm able to be part of study groups, blind tasting groups, because these people learn in different ways. We teach each other, but also they don't make my sobriety a thing.
You can all coexist.
In practice, it's the same exact thing.
Okay, tip number 2.
Define your boundaries and place yourself in the right environments. Learning when enough is enough.
Right.
I brought up earlier my relationship with my sisters. We're so close because we have boundaries. I can put wine in my mouth, taste it, appreciate it, spit it out, because we have that boundary.
Tip number 3.
Find all of the other things that pulled you into this world of wine in the first place, and find a way to share them. For me, it was that very human-like quality to wine. It is raised, it is treated, then it goes out into the world, and it has its own experience once that bottle is open, and just several stories that continue on and on.
I think you and I both love pairing wine with things. Should it be with food, a moment, music? It's relatable.
Yeah, always. And I gave up. That's a good point. I said give up. I quit drinking alcohol. I quit a behavior. I didn't give anything up because I'm still a part of all of these experiences. This is where language is very important.
Tip number 4.
Normalize spittoons.
Preach.
Period.
Preach. Agreed.
Kind of, that's it.
Yeah, every time I think I have a portable spittoon, I'm like, I really use it.
Yeah.
So now what I'd love to do is just hone in on your Mexican heritage and the flavors that are familiar to you, especially when you taste through wine. And this is going to be a fun exercise because I'm Filipino and we have very similar ingredients and flavors that we both grew up with. So let's jump into it.
Yes.
The first one, by the way, this table smells amazing, is tamarind.
Tamarind. You can consume it in any shape, way, or form. Tamarind water, just as an actual fruit. But my favorite, obviously, candy. There's this candy called pulparindo that I grew up eating. Anytime I taste specifically aged Mosel Riesling is where I really get it. I get this candied, salty, kind of spicy, not in the form of heat, but just we're gonna take a bite now.
I like this. I grew up with this. But in the Philippines, mine is a little bit more sugary, but it has that tart sour note. What kind of feels like the skin of like a bossed pear, if you will. And except yours it has a little bit of heat.
It's delicious. I think that's why I love it so much, because it hits almost every flavor profile. And even the acid, I'm speaking now, totally. I'm salivating. It just reminds me of tasting Riesling, rather reminds me of eating this candy.
That's so wild. So
my favorite thing.
Yours resonates more with like Mosel. I think for me, mine is more like Rheinhessen.
Oh, with a heat?
Yeah. More spice, yeah.
Yeah.
Love it. All right. Jamaica. My favorite thing, and this just makes me think of my grandma. You know, when I'm doing staff training or just any sort of education, I talk about people giving subjective descriptions like my grandma's closet. You know, like Jimmy's grandma's closet in New Jersey smells very differently from my grandma's closet in Guadalajara. So, yes, I think most of us would be familiar with hibiscus tea, but agua de Jamaica, just smelling that fresh Jamaica being steeped into water and the specific kind of concentration, it reminds me of just red Burgundy. Maybe a little bit of age, something maybe even from a warmer vintage. That concentration, it's there. It's hard to describe. I love the smell. It's kind of, for me, at least what I'm experiencing in the glass, kind of has that fruity and a givry vibe to it. There's like this rusticity to it, but there is that elegance, that vein of elegance through the middle, right?
Totally. Yeah.
Ooh, I love this. And the color is beautiful.
It looks like burgundy. Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. All right, mangoes.
And we have it here with tajin, because why not? Let's
do it.
So I grew up eating it, so cheers.
Cheers. I have this usually on a margarita.
As one should. So mangoes,
yeah.
There's, beyond the aromatics, right, that I find in a lot of maybe warmer climate Sauvignon Blancs in every style, whether it's sweet, dry, etc.
Whoa. Let's round up the trip, because I'm a green mango.
I forgot to specify. Yeah. I was going to go into the texture of that ripeness, where it almost, I'm not kidding, it feels like butter. These very ripe Mexican mangoes just melt in your mouth. And that's that texture coming from warmth.
It's funny because in the Philippines, I was just there after not visiting for such a long time. And I almost forgot this flavor of mango that we have, where, again, and we don't talk about texture nearly as much, but yeah, it felt like butter, and the sweetness. It wasn't this cloying level of sweetness. It just, you knew that there was a lot of sugar in there, right?
Yeah.
But it was integrated in such a way that you could probably eat another 10 of those.
Yeah. And I did. Yeah. Always. But just like when we talk about quality sweet wines, that backbone of acid and brightness is still there, which I love.
For me, it's that green mango flavor. Oh, I love the snap of it. I love this slight rawness to it. You can feel very subtle notes of what feels like a shy Riesling, if you will.
Yeah.
A shy Sauvignon Blanc. It's got more of that quiet whisper to it. But then if you throw a little bit of shrimp paste on that, which I absolutely adore, because it's salty, it's funky, it's earthy. looks horrible to look at, but
Uh-huh.
when you taste it
Oh, one of the
together,
best things.
it mind
Things I
explosion.
love, not defined, no shape, nothing. Just
No, it's so odd. And I grew up eating this with like peaches, mangoes, for sure.
Oh, not just mangoes. Okay,
Yeah,
peach
yeah.
is also more underripe.
Ooh, actually, yes.
Okay,
Yeah, I grew up with the underripe, but I could totally eat ripe.
yeah,
as
makes
well.
me think of some people use the word crunchy for that kind of snappy acid, and yeah,
Totally. It has that. We don't talk nearly as much as about texture, and I'm so glad we're touching on acid as well,
Yeah.
salinity. Yeah.
texture. I think it's missed a lot of the times, and with pairings, I try to bring it up a lot at work because again, I don't like leading with aromatics, and it's so subjective that there's no point. But that texture, it's something that people can immediately almost feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with just trying to find things that are relatable. And one of the most like creative descriptions that I heard recently is especially about tannins. It's like a corduroy texture.
Oh, yeah. And
You can feel that.
And you know what that means. Yeah, exactly. I think, because velvety got overused, and I think people stopped using any sort of
Smooth,
texture like that. Yeah.
smooth texture.
Yeah, I think that's what happened.
Should we just
But
like
let's
make
start using corduroy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
agreed?
Let's bring it back.
Okay, and this one, I am so glad you brought this. This is Paleta de la Rosa.
Yes, Paleta de la Rosa.
I love it. Roll that over.
So this is, I mean, I can only describe it as
Oh, I love this.
chemical red fruited lollipop, but it's so delicious and you can't stop.
No.
I mean, you just keep going. And
On one side, it looks like almost like the creamsicle side, I want to say. And then the other side is a combination of that creamsicle, but then it's bright red, lifesaver almost.
yeah.
Oh my gosh, it is the red lifesaver. And the front.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember the kind of, yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know. This just feels
it's really good.
like mine's not its own thing.
So good.
But this reminds me of what you might refer to as carbonic in something like Beaujolais, or even like Cinsault coming from South Africa.
Totally. And last one, Ancho Chile.
I love anything spicy, even if it's just smelling it. The very first time I thought about this was one of the first times I tasted older Bordeaux. And I had probably that week, I don't remember exactly, but I had just gotten one of those hot chocolates with Ancho Chile from, I lived in Brooklyn, so those fancy coffee shops. And it reminded me of that immediately. And I thought, Ancho Chile! I called it, I've called it ever since then. That's some of these are harder. Like, I'm not going to call Paleta de la Rosa when I'm blinding Beaujolais. But Ancho Chile is one of those that I actually use when blind tasting. That way in which the green chili notes from pyrazines evolve into something totally different. Just kind of, just spicy in a different way. Prickly almost.
Totally. And there is something like that smells kind of sweet.
Yeah.
Maybe concentrated berries from a warm vintage. So I totally get what you're saying. So that mixed with pyrazine tone, totally word out.
Yeah. And these are dried too, sun dried. So the warmth translates. That's what I love. Everything really just translates. Everything shows up.
I love how you're able to take every part of who you are and apply it to wine, even in making the decision of being sober.
Thank you.
And so, Abe, I'm going to wrap this up, but I really loved our chat so much. The fact that we can come together at this table and say, well, works for me, may not work for you. Why? And yet be able to share the presence of wine, that's beautiful. That's life. That's the world of wine and why we love it so much. It was so great to talk to you, and thank you so much for sharing your experience with me, with us. And hopefully others are inspired by our conversation and maybe can find out what really works for them. Thanks so much for tuning in. Have any questions or want to share your thoughts about this topic? We'd love to know. You can email us your comments and questions at podcast@wineenthusiast.net. Remember, you can subscribe to this podcast on Apple, Google, Spotify, and anywhere else you listen to your favorite shows. You can also go to wineenthusiast.com/podcast for episodes and transcripts. I'm Ana Cristina Cabrales. Thanks for listening.